Well, good afternoon, everybody, and welcome in. Rivals.com, Maize and Blue Reviews. Good afternoon, Michigan football. Yeah, ready to kick this one off on one of the last days of January 2025, and we've got plenty to talk about today. And that includes what is going on with Michigan, as always. And I got a story about how much Michigan made with their alcohol sales this year. It was the first year that they were allowing fans to buy beers and such at the game. And I've got a number that I will spill to you coming up straight ahead. The story that continues on that has been sometimes, front page, center page, talked about nonstop is Michigan versus the NCAA. And everybody knows that, but U of M ready to fight the NCAA. I'll give you my thoughts on that. But I am going to start with the recruiting. And back in the day, it was February the 5th, the first Wednesday in February, when it was signing day. Everybody would be all fired up. And, now we know that they have two, and most of the class is signed and sealed already. But since signing day is a week away, Michigan still is in the mix with a tackle from Texas, and that is Ty Haywood. And he visited Michigan recently. He has not taken a visit since. And it was always thought that it was going to come down to a signing day special. So that would be a week from today. Maybe we'll find out a little bit before then, but maybe it will play all the way out to Wednesday. A little intrigue, something to keep your eye on about Michigan adding another player. And this is not just any prep. This kid is very highly thought of. This would be an awesome get for Michigan. I've heard some people say, yeah, well, he's just looking for the bag. It's like, that's what everybody's doing now. Everybody's looking for the bag, So if he is, that's okay. That's all right if he's out there. And, there could be a case for being, if you get yours first or whatever you want, everything. But if you're undecided and you like everything and somebody's sweetening the pot, whatever, however that goes, I don't see it as a negative in how things work now. So Haywood, obviously somebody to keep an eye on. And then we're on to 2026. And I could give you a list of 5 to 10 names to start things off. And I actually had a few other names that were written down. Like I was looking at the state of Michigan. There's a tight end, Lincoln Keys. There's another running back. I put one running back on here, but I put 2 players down for next year, and I will add to this list. But guys that I'm really focusing in on, guys that I'm focusing in on, guys that are very talented. I tend to look when you're starting to look at next year myself, the big fish, the big names, the highly rated guys, and sort of put that wish list down. And then guys that might be interested in Michigan, guys that you think Michigan will be going after, and all those kind of things. And all that being said, I have 2 players to present to you that I think Michigan, when I start this list for 26, the wish list. And the first one is a running back out of Virginia named Savion Heiter. Now, Heiter, it looks like hitter if you're looking at his name, but you look at his social media and he gives you the pronunciation right there on his Twitter page. And it leaves nothing to the balance. It's spelled out Heiter. So Savion Heiter, highly rated running back out of Virginia. He is, I'm putting him number 1 on the depth chart at running back right now, both his interest in Michigan and Michigan's interest in him. Savion Hyder, remember the name, folks. This is going to be a guy that is going to be talked about until he accepts the challenge and ends up pledging towards Michigan. So there's one. And the second one, you think Bryce Underwood, and we've been talking about the position groups with the most question marks, and wherever you think it is, we've been talking about this. I happen to think quarterback is number one because Underwood, you don't know if he's going to start right out of the gate or not. And then my second position group, it's not of worry, just of question mark. There might, the guys that you're not sure about the position group is wide receiver. So thinking about highly rated wide receivers for next year, I looked immediately to 26, and my first question was, well, does the state of Michigan, who's the highest rated wide receiver in the state of Michigan? And you don't have to go very far to find this guy, Corey Sadler, out of Detroit Cass Tech. He's up there. He's a top 40 out of any position, ranked number 6 wide receiver overall, the number 1 player in the state of Michigan, Sadler. Now, I didn't see any other wide receivers. Doesn't mean that Michigan doesn't have any, or some guys will emerge, or there's, they'll get bumped up just very early in the process when you're talking about next year already. But Sadler's there, and if you were not familiar with his name, well, you should be. And now there that is. It's back to the thinking about the wide receiver from Cass Tech. So that's it. Hyder and Sadler. I am going to continue to talk about these guys. I don't know if it will be every show, but I would bet that once a week I would be talking about these guys. So that's it with recruiting. To always take a look at the feedback. If you're out there, we go live, an opportunity for you to get involved in the broadcast and say what's on your mind when you're a Michigan fan. And we have some people, and it doesn't surprise me that jumped right in talking about the NCAA. That is the hot news, and you could make a case for me that I should have led with that. And I did think about that, but I also thought that's what I'm going to talk about the most. So I put it at the end. If I talked about the NCAA for a half hour straight, and then I went to some recruiting, and then I went to this the beer sales or alcohol sales, I might have lost some of you. So I did it this way. is saying that we need 5 stars. We need 5 stars protecting our 5-star quarterback. Yeah. And obviously, Urabi, who is messaging in, follows the recruiting game because Chris Henry Jr., if you remember his dad who played for the Bengals, he says there are rumors swirling about Henry. He says, doubt it, but saw it on X. Well, there you go. Who knows? Rumors swirling on X about the number 1 wide receiver in the country who's committed to Ohio State. So who knows? Nothing wrong with taking a look at some rumors, and we treat them like we should. Hey, we'll file it right over here. All right. There's at least a rumor about it. Here's Hadley. He comes around once in a while. He says that I did a good job on the hockey games last weekend. Hope you get to do it again. Send this NCAA ruling report. Michigan will resolve this once and for all. Thanks, Hadley. Glad you were listening to the hockey games. I went to Madison over the weekend, was able to do a pair of games with the play-by-play voice of Michigan hockey, Al Randall, and I had a ball being able to. It's been 5 years since I had done a Michigan hockey broadcast. And so being able to go down and, talk with the coaches and then sit in the play-by-play booth and then add my insights. I'm no hockey coach. I didn't play hockey or anything. So I'm adding my insights, quote unquote, as somebody as just more of a fan of hockey, certainly a fan of the Michigan hockey program. And that's how I was approaching it. But man, it's the games go by, and when you're dialed in and watching everything and like that on the edge of your chair, it goes by like snap your fingers and it's over. It's like, wow, that is intense. And it was a reminder that, and I like football, baseball, basketball, and hockey, the four major sports, and I like pro and hockey and all four of those. College hockey, it is it's great. It really is. And in Michigan, they don't even have their, the best team over the last 10 years or wherever, but they're good, and it's exciting to be there. And it was a pleasure. Thanks, Hadley, for that. Yeah, hopefully I will get to do another game inside of the next 5 years. But hey, leave me over 5 years. I'll be there for them. All right, a couple other things that I wanted to give to you, and one is that I talked with someone who spoke with someone in the Michigan athletic department, and that person inside the Michigan athletic department told this person that I was talking with that Michigan made $2 million every home game last year with their alcohol sales, a net $2 million. Well, Michigan had 8 home games last year, so it was pretty easy for me to put down that they made $16 million in alcohol sales. And this, I don't know if it was controversial or not. When you involve any kind of what was that? It was called a syntax, but no, anything like tobacco, alcohol, gambling, and then you have it involved in with athletics. There's going to be some people like, yeah, that doesn't really mix, that kind of advertising or actually having it in the stadium. But and at some point maybe you weren't able to get over it, or you were able to get over it because you're like, you walk around the tailgates and you see the beer everywhere else. Why not have it in the stadium? And it was a pretty easy decision when you're putting, where they charge $16 for the beer sales, or for a beer. That's what somebody told me. Also, I asked, wow, how much is one beer? $16 for a beer. What's that cost to pour that? A quarter or 50 cents? And they're charging you $16. But enough people, whether it was a novelty or people that just like drink from the tailgate, and they used to sneak some in. Now they don't have to. They just walk up like, hey, I'll just keep drinking. And so $2 million a game and $16 million. Talk about easy money, man. I don't know how much they projected. If you'd have asked me, I wouldn't have said $16 million. I'd have said something like, I don't know, $5 million. Maybe they would make something. I don't even know if I would have said that. I didn't think about it. So now that I know how much they made, I'm just throwing that out there. But man, $16 million. That can, when you consider how much the people talked about Ohio State spending $20 million on their recruiting class, or was it just in the transfer portal? I think those two things were put together, but I could be wrong if you're listening to this and like, no, that was just a transfer portal. Okay. But so $16 million comes in handy, if you're out there. It's nice, I'm sure, if you work in the Michigan Athletic Director, or if you are the Michigan Athletic Director at Ward Manual, and you go to all those committees and you go to all these budget meetings where they're like, hey, how we doing? Everything else. And he's just like, hey, here's 16 mil that we just came up with. How about that? So we got that going for us, which is pretty nice, right? I know they had to pay 20 now, but that's why maybe this was why they were able to push this through. Like they got to give 20 million to the athletes and, part of revenue sharing. And, but hey, here's 16 mil. And, not bad to be able to do that. Now they don't have 8 home games because they go to Oklahoma. But if they can make 14 million this year, I don't know how I don't know if they made 2 last year, are they just counting on? I think they probably will. Yeah, we're making 2. I'd like to see it broken down each game. 2. They made, did the novelty wear off? Was there less when it got colder, or was it more in the bigger games? Was it more with when the Spartans were there? I bet. I kind of feel like Michigan State fans drink a lot. I don't know that. It's kind of just a guess. So I'm not really sure. Okay, so that's why I just wanted to give you that when it came down to the beer. You know what? I see Keegan who joins us. And Keegan, we may have made a bet, and if it wasn't you, I apologize. I was on here a couple months ago, and I made the statement that I thought Jalen Milroe would be a first-round draft pick. And there were people on the feedback, they were saying, no, you don't know what you're talking about. No way. Don't see it. And then somebody said, let's bet on it. I'm like, let's do it. And, I had already watched him play against Georgia, and he looked great. And it wasn't just because I watched him play against Georgia. I also was looking at Pro Football Focus, and they were just enamored with him. They had him number 1 all the way through. They had him more over Shedeur Sanders, Ward. They had him higher than everyone, and they kept him up there. So I was like, yeah, people just don't understand Milroe. He's going to be a first-round pick. And Keegan, I think it was him. There it is. We did. I remember you. Keegan, you are right. And down at the Senior Bowl, they measured Jalen Milroe's hands. And he's got a sub 9-inch hand, 8 3/4. I didn't get the exactly, but it was under 9. And if you follow the measurements, that's like a corner running 4.6. There's some guys like Richard Sherman or Joe Hayden that didn't have 4.4 40 times and ended up being fabulous corners. And I don't know, Sherman, did he switch to corner or was he a wide receiver? But Hayden was one of those guys, a slower corner that ended up making it. And when it comes to quarterbacks, teams do not want to draft a quarterback with small hands. Jalen Milroe, in context of quarterbacks in the NFL, has small hands. I was going to measure my own hand. I don't think I have 9-inch hands, but I'm not going out to be a quarterback. It looks like 9 inches if I put it up towards the screen, but that's the first thing you need to do if you think, can I play quarterback in the NFL? Let's measure your hands. And I was telling somebody this today, and they're like, maybe we should have known watching him in the ReliaQuest Bowl when it started to rain, the ball started squirting out because, somebody like Matt Stafford, he's got 10-inch hands. The ball sits in there, and you get to some dicey weather, and you are able to hang on to that ball. That's not everything, but it is that line. And if you're below that line, it's like the corners being above a 4.55. There's not many that make it, and there's not many quarterbacks. I don't know if there is a quarterback that's starting in the NFL right now that has a smaller than 9-inch hands. So Milroe, I don't think he's going to be a first rounder. Keegan, we're going to have to, I don't know. Are you going to the spring game? Are you from Michigan? I'll keep, there's all kinds of different ways that I can reward our bet. So we'll have to do that. Trump hands. Trump's got little small hands. Wasn't there? Seinfeld. Wasn't there an episode of Seinfeld? I haven't watched all of the Seinfelds, but I believe there was one where was it a girl that Jerry was going out with, and they're like that she had small hands, or she was like, "Hey, Jerry, you got small hands," or maybe I'm messing that up. Like I'm not a Seinfeld expert or anything. No, Keegan, we'll find out. Michigan is going to win the battle, and they're going to win the war. Well, that gets us to the NCAA. I want to encourage all of you. You want to know more about fighting with the NCAA? I saw Trevor McHugh was talking with some, I say a source, could have been multiple sources. I read his story today in the Maize and Blue Review. Fascinating. Walked through the very long piece about Michigan fighting the NCAA. And I just spoke about recruiting, and you get football recruiting and basketball, the story, everything. That's what it's about on the Maize and Blue Review. Go there today and get instant access by going to michigan.rivals.com. It's the place to be. I would love to see you there. Now, this thing has been going on, it seems, for a very long time. I remember when the NCAA, they put out their initial findings, and then Michigan had, it was like it was going to come down right at the Ohio State game. It's like, what are these guys? Can we not have it, right in the season? And then it didn't. And then so this just came out yesterday where it says Michigan is going to fight. And the question to you out there is, are you glad Michigan is fighting this? And my first thought is, I'd like to nip everything in the bud. I would have liked if yesterday that Michigan came out and said, we have found some common ground with the NCAA. We have a resolution with whatever you want to call it, a plea bargain where you have to admit something, but and then here it is. And here's where the finding is. But that is not how it played out. And in fact, Michigan, after looking at all of the findings, they called what the NCAA was putting out there grossly overreaching and wildly overcharging. I mean, those are that's as phrasing goes on, it really doesn't get much better than that. Hey, NCAA, you are grossly overreaching and wildly overcharging. I think a lot of Michigan fans, we don't know everything about this. We learned a lot in that. I don't know. We learned more in that story about some, different particulars. There was some new information that, like, some of the text were included in the Yahoo story. Some of the other stuff that, they thought about Stallions, that kind of stuff. So it's an interesting read if you follow this and you're interested in it. Go check that out. But I think a lot of people, as this was going on through the championship season, were thinking that this is other people have said it too. This feels like they're making a mountain out of a molehill. This seems like way drama central, and it doesn't have to be. I say all of that because that's what I thought. I thought, no, this is way too far. Maybe whatever Michigan did, okay, let's deal with it in the offseason. But this is just adding, to this craziness, this drama. But the only part where I paused a little bit is I thought, thinking about that championship season, I was being asked a lot, what I thought was going to happen. And I've said for sure that nothing was going to happen. Michigan is in the middle of the season. Well, after the season, down the road, we'll see, but nothing is going to happen. Michigan is not suspending anybody, and the NCAA is not suspending anybody. What happened to be Tony Batiti, who said, no, we actually are in season going to suspend Jim Harbaugh. So I was caught not off guard. I was super shocked about that the commissioner did that. So I say all that when I look at this, and I feel pretty good about Michigan's position, even not knowing all of their arguments. But that's something in the back of my mind. I felt very strongly that they would not suspend Jim Harbaugh, and they ended up doing it. There's a couple things that I feel good about, and now I'll just add a third. Michigan has their team of lawyers, and they're pretty good. The law department and the lawyers that they have there, they're some of the best. So they're going to know what they're doing here with what they're fighting with. And I'll give them props on the grossly overreaching, and wildly overcharging lines that they put in here. The other part, that just looking at it, where I think that Michigan, if you want to say, gets off lightly, and I think that Michigan is going to get off lightly. I look just to the recent battle of the NCAA with Tennessee, and Tennessee had 18 level 1 charges against them, 18. And they fought with the NCAA, and in the end, they were fined $8 million. The Vols were. They were hit with recruiting violations and 5-year probations. Now, that seems like they're actually got off light when you feel like 18 level 1s. $8 million is substantial, but recruiting violations now, I don't know. I don't even know how they would go about that with how recruiting is going now and probation, but no bowl bans, and they're not even part of the NCAA playoffs. So I don't even know how they could, what they can do there. Maybe they can just go with fines, and maybe they can just go to coaches and, throw show causes around and suspensions. Maybe that's what they can do. And I don't want to see anybody, I don't want to see Sharon Moore suspended. We've gone through all of that. That was a circus. Hopefully that doesn't happen. But there's always something, if you said, hey, well, what if Sharon Moore just had to sit out the New Mexico and then it was over? Okay. But, you don't like it. But Michigan was 6 alleged level 1s, and Tennessee had 18. So, that makes me feel like Michigan is going to get off light. The other part is that I know a lot of Michigan State and Ohio State fans and a few others that, they keep talking about, they're going to get hit with a hammer or whatever. And it's coming down. And part of that hammer, and what Michigan fans do not want, is any vacated wins from 2023 in the national championship season. And the reason that I would feel good about that not happening is that the president who just took over, Charlie Parker, after Michigan won the national championship, deemed the title that Michigan won, that they had won it, quote, fair and square. So, sure, there can be changes like we're talking about. We can see all of this, and then things could go back. But that's why I would feel like that Michigan, get off lightly. Looking at Tennessee, looking at what the president had to say, looking at Michigan's team of lawyers. The other part, and this was said by, this was speculation. I don't know, I was going to say by lawyers, but it could have just been Michigan fans, that Michigan's strategy, if they take the NCAA to court and battle with them, they could just keep filing motions and dragging this out and dragging it out. And the NCAA, with each and every month, week, it seems like, if not day, they're losing power. Where if you just play the long game with the NCAA, there's not even going to be an NCAA. So what's just going to happen? Poof, they're going to be gone. And I don't know if Michigan's lawyers, if that was part of it, it's like, let's just, fight them. We can just keep playing this out. They're not even going to be around. That could be. And they did file, did I write it in here? How many pages? 137 pages of things to go through. Let me see if I got that. Yeah, 137 page response that Michigan put to the NCAA. So how quickly that they are able to work through a 137 page response will be something telling. I did think that it was interesting, that it never looked good. Sharon Moore, the day that Stallions was quit or fired. It looked like he was fired first, then he quit. That Sharon Moore that day deleted, like, Stallions delete, all of his things, and Sharon said he did it because he was angry, I think is what he said. But then they were able to go back and get all of those texts. There's nothing in those texts that is damning towards this case. So, all right, they were able to go back and get them. And sure, it didn't look the best, but there's nothing in there when they look at him. So they were able to get him thinking, oh, we got him now. But it's like, no, there's really nothing in there. So that's how I see the latest situation. I have always, when it came down to Stallions, I know many Michigan people, whether it's just flippant or they're just fans, so they don't care. And, they call him a genius and they love him. And, they just, he's a great Michigan man and all these things. And I don't feel that way myself, but, that's fine. We can all still, I think, be friends. There were two things that I still think about with Stallions. Why in the future, if it's your business, if it's Michigan, don't hire fans. Don't hire fanatics. And Stallions is a fanatic for Michigan. And fanatics will go to no length. And Stallions would have been best. Stallions is best sitting in the stands cheering for Michigan, painting his face. Part of his job, whatever, if he would be, somewhere where he can't put Michigan in harm's way. I don't know. Could he be an extension of the recruiting? Those kind of things would be fine. I would never let him near any football program if I was in charge. And you say, well, why? He's a genius. Well, why is that? He was doing the Groucho Marx routine, on the central sideline. That would have been enough for me, to show that he's just a loose cannon and a fanatic. There's really no argument to me against that. Once I saw that, I just been like, okay, so this is what we're dealing with. I mean, you didn't know that he was a lunatic fringe, fanatic, but, here he is with sunglasses on the sideline at night against Michigan State. Okay. The other part, and to me, this has always been the crux of the whole thing. During that Netflix show, when it came down to asking him if he was on the sideline, he was being this open book and everything, but he's like, I'm not answering that. It's like, okay, well, all right, we understand that. The other part is that, he's like, who cares if I'm buying tickets for friends and family to go to games and buying them tickets and paying for their airfare? There's an argument to be made, I believe, that if you are paying someone to go to a stadium and shoot video for you to use, that they're by extension, because you're paying them, that they're scouting for you and for Michigan. And by you paying them, if they did it by themselves without the money trail to you, that's different. That's the distinction to me. Now, plenty of people have, wanted to argue. No, they're not Michigan employees. They're just fans going to the stadium, and they're saying, look, this is just a silly bylaw that Stallions was, or I shouldn't say that. There was a bylaw that was worked around. That's what I think he was doing. He was working around the bylaw. Not the worst thing. It's not a level 1 violation that he was working around. He was working around we'll say a flimsy bylaw that looked like they were going to take off the books. They didn't. That was on there for something else that he worked around. I can see that doesn't even make him out to me that big of a fanatic, but I think he knew that he shouldn't have been, paying the people to do that. But, he was, I also feel like he was out of control that way. Now, if he never would have been down to the central sideline, maybe I'd have just said, "Hey, guys, this kid's just looking for every angle he can to work around a flimsy bylaw." Hey, but I believe that, but in marrying it up with the central stuff, it makes me just feel like for he's not the most reputable character to me. He's a fanatic, but so that's where I sit on all of that. In the end, I always thought, and maybe I'll be wrong on this. Maybe Michigan it'll be so light that it'll be the joke will be on the NCAA, the joke will be on Ohio State, the joke will be on Michigan State fans. Everybody will have a great laugh at it, and that's what I hope happens. That Michigan it's not even a slap on the wrist. It was like, okay, this. I don't even know why we did this. It was stupid. Maybe that's happened, but I always thought that it wasn't going to be as bad as Ohio State and Michigan State, where hoping and they'll just a hammer. I never thought it was going to be like that. Meanwhile, I did think that it was going to be a little bit more than a little slap. And for everything that I've said everybody that I've listened to and read, I still feel that way. Now, that almost sounds a little bit too nice and neat and a little too, like, I don't know, flimsy. Oh, so you don't think it's going to be as bad, but you don't think it's going to be as good. Yeah, that's my position on it. So the Tennessee part is encouraging with the amount of level ones that Tennessee fought in what they were, quote unquote, hit with. If I put 6 violations towards the 18 and one ended up with Tennessee, that does feel very light. So that does kind of feel like and then Michigan might just be kicking this down the road, and the NCAA just might be like, they're just banning the NCAA. They're not needed anymore. And they'll be like, well, what about this thing with Michigan? It's all done. Well, then, not only will it be light, it'll be nothing. Michigan will be a definitive winner. It'll be like Michigan played the Michigan State again. And just, or in the national championship season, beat them 49-0 or whatever it was. It'll be that big of a victory. And so I'll be wrong on that, than it being a little bit more. So I could easily see the thought pattern for Michigan fans saying that, oh yeah, they're in a great spot. We're glad they're fighting. Great team of lawyers. It's Michigan and Michigan behind them. The NCAA's got nothing here that they're bringing to the table. The only thing they can do is try to, poison the well in the media. And we've seen that they've been doing that. It's very transparent. And look what happened with Tennessee. And the NCAA will be dissolved before any of this happens anyways. And so you might feel like, yeah, no. I'm going to read some of the feedback. That's what I have to say about it. And if there's a point that I've missed or one that you're agreeing or disagreeing with, well, that's a great way to be able to join the show and get your feedback read. That's kind of what it's about, right? So let's do it. All right, let's get to them. And, Marmar is feeling pretty good. Oh, the girl on Seinfeld had man hands, not that Jerry had small hands. Marmar is talking about the facts that the president said Michigan won fair and square. Yeah, that's anybody that's talking about it. If they're pro Michigan or if they're if from Ohio State, pretty early on in the discussion, they should put out there that that's what Charlie Parker had to say. Is that his name, Charlie Parker? Yeah. I forget sometimes what the president's made there. Let's see what cut from a different cloth. He's talking about Seinfeld. He couldn't get over the fact that she had man hands. Oh, and cut from a different cloth met a girl at a computer lab in a building referred to as the Fistbowl. She was gorgeous, but the problem with her was that she had man hands. She had a kid, and so I knew she was a female. Okay, but I couldn't get over the fact that she had man hands. That bothered me more than the fact that she had a kid. Well, I've never been in that situation, but if I liked everything else about a girl, and then I looked down and she had man hands, I think I could overlook it. I think I could. And in fact, I might think like, hey, you know, I kind of have, I don't have the biggest hands, pretty good strength, grip strength, but hey, about a kid might come out, have big hands. I don't know. There was, I remember a girl that I went to high school with that was very attractive, but I didn't like her voice as much. And that ended up being a little bit of a deal breaker. And she was, she was good. Nice girl. The NCAA's last stand. Michael, there is this one, and I don't know who it is myself, but everybody is taking a swing at who is the rat on the Michigan side because they said it came from the Michigan. It came within Michigan. It wasn't, Ryan Day or his brother necessarily. It was inside Michigan, the one that told on them. And here's somebody saying Gaddis. Like I said, I don't know who it is. But Gaddis certainly left disgruntled. Josh Gaddis thought he was going to be the next. He was in line, as the succession plan goes. He was in line to be the next Michigan head coach. And then when Jim Harbaugh went to interview in Minnesota, he found out that he was not going to be considered. And I believe had to do with was his own situation off the field and in his own house, what was going on there. And that frustrated him. But you can understand if it wasn't for, what happened at his own house, then maybe he would have been that guy. He could have been the guy in front of Sharon Moore. Cut from a different cloth thinks U of M going to court is a good sign. Normally, you should avoid court and settle. But if you have solid proof and facts that you are not guilty, then you go to court. Michigan will be just fine. Well, that's the other part. I'm saying like, maybe they could just kick it down the road. Maybe, you see what happened with Tennessee. But yeah, that's another very good thing. Maybe they didn't really do all of these things and they're looking at the evidence. And then each one of their lawyers, as Michigan explains it, like we can argue just every one of these things. Yes, we will fight it. Screw a plea bargain. Let's take it all the way. Okay. All right. Let's see. Okay. Mr. Martini saying that Connor was ignorant of the rules. Yeah, I don't know if he was or not. Maybe he just thought he was working around the rule. And that was it. Yeah, I never really agree. It's just a cheeseburger stuff. People like saying that. Go Blue from Savion Heiter State, Virginia. Good to see you. Come on in. Cheeseburgers and hammers. That's what we're talking about today. This is the kind of feedback I like from John. John will be at the spring game. We should all meet up. Yes, we should. Yes, we will. We will all be meeting up at the spring game. Smash met me and others like Jerry D'Ario at last year's spring game. How about that? I haven't thought about the fishbowl in forever. We're going down to the Catapult Sky Systems. Urban Meyer was using it. Ryan Day was his OC. Could get interesting. Yeah, I've been reading about Catapult and Ohio State and private investigators for a long time. For me, maybe Michigan's sitting on that. So maybe it's going to be a reverse hammer. So that would be nice. But I'll have to wait and see on that one. It'll be fun. You say this is the argument. Technically, there's no rule saying that non-employees can't record a team sideline. That's his reasoning. Yeah, and then the NCAA can say once you pay someone that they are in essence, you're paying them to be a scout. You're paying them to be on the team kind of thing. So, but I don't know. Maybe, that technicality, maybe you're saying that's exactly it. Doesn't matter. You can pay anybody any amount of money. That doesn't mean they're working for Michigan. And maybe you're right. I'm just giving it my own thought. That was always. Here's more speculation about who the rat is. Somebody says Hart. Somebody says Dudek. I don't think it's Dudek, although he's a very good guess because he didn't like Michigan and he was ratting on him for other things. And, I don't think it's Hart, although I understand why people are saying Hart because he left under reasons that are not public. So you kind of get that part, but I don't think that is. We're talking about Worthy's mom and Gaddis. I confirming a rumor. I mean, it was a rumor. So, yeah, it was a rumor. And then I think Gaddis ended up getting divorced out of that situation. So, and that cost him the Michigan job. So, and speaking about Worthy in my postseason fantasy league, it has all come down to Xavier Worthy, not for me. There's 15 or so of us that pick these teams, and I am tied. This guy's got Xavier Worthy, and I've got Devontae Smith. If Devontae Smith can get more points than Xavier Worthy, then I am going to win. So I am rooting against Xavier Worthy, but I'm more rooting for Devontae Smith. And there it is. Dennis Westquad was on the 98 Team B. I have to look. I did go out one time with a young lady that was at Michigan, and I would say it's Westquad. It was a busy street, and I would roll up out in front. And sometimes I think I did go up to her. I couldn't just leave my car out in front there, but I will be able to find out, not even by driving down there, because that young lady was friends with the best man at my wedding, and they're still married. So I would be able to ask, hey, what was that? Was that Westquad? Now, just purely on, I'm very happily married and everything else, but just purely from the Michigan standpoint, and my wife has 2 degrees from Michigan. So she's a Michigan man. She thinks that's funny when I say that, but I say it in nice terms. No, but this young lady, she went to Michigan, which was was nice. I liked that part. But what I really liked is that she took me to my first Michigan-Ohio State game. It was cold. Michigan won. They shut out Ohio State, like 22-0 or something. What would that have been, around 91, 92? I'd have to look back. But Michigan shut out Ohio State. But her dad had great, they had a great spot to tailgate. The band comes right up the street. It was at a Hoover. They come right up the street, and you couldn't have picked a better spot where her dad's tailgate was. And, being at that tailgate and then knowing that he, as long as he had, Michigan tickets and everything, I was thinking, like, this is a pretty good, this girl's got a lot of things going for her. Her dad's got a great spot, tailgate spot. She's going to Michigan. This is kind of a keeper. I did, not everything works out. Had nothing to do with her hands or anything like that. Truth be told, she liked me a little, you got to have that match where you both like each other the same amount. I think she just liked me way more. And she wasn't a bad girl like I was talking about, but it was just like she was way more serious than I was. And what can often happen in situations like that is I kind of pushed back a little bit and was distant, which only makes them like you more. And then it became, it was too much. And then it ended. And that's it. And now we just have just stories to tell about it and everything there. All right. That's all. So let's go through the last few on the feedback here. Here we are talking about Josh Gaddis again. I don't know. Yeah, Josh Gaddis was at the U, and then he was at Maryland, right? What's the third job? Yeah, I don't know if Gaddis was a huge mistake. I mean, Gaddis did a good job. I mean, it was, Harbaugh, he was part of the offense. I mean, he won the Broyles Award. So there's plenty that you could talk about that were worst hires for Harbaugh. Gaddis didn't do any good afterwards, but he had a hell of a year in 2021. All right. We do have a few more here. So it's good to see John. Keegan says the reason he's not married is no girl has ever taken him to the Chinese buffet. I don't know. Are these Seinfeld references that I'm not getting? 28-0. I said it was 22-0 in the 90s versus Cooper. I'll buy it. 28-0. The interesting part from the story is that the tipster came from within the program. Yeah, that was interesting, as you put it. That's it. So, yeah, that part was interesting. And so people that understand the legal process better than me, lawyers, they looked at this last night and were kind of just like, meh, this is just part of the process. This is just Michigan's response. We're just getting started. They still may come to a resolution. The NCAA had their spot. Michigan responded. And that's just the situation we're in. The wheels of justice turn slow. This thing's just getting going. We're in the first half of Michigan v. NCAA. And see, for me, I was thinking that this was going to, I thought it was going to be, was I led to believe, or did I lead myself to believe that this was going to be done before the season? Maybe. But then it was like, oh, it was going to be done after Ohio State. But no, that was just the time for the response. And now we have this. And so, I don't know, they kick it back and forth a couple more times. I don't know. Should I know the timeline right now of now that they're in a fight? Do we have to get a court date? Is this now what actually brings on the negotiating process now that Michigan says, no, we'll fight this to the end. Will they sit down and will there be any conversations about, well, let's come to a resolution? And again, if Michigan is so strong and their resolve where they looked at all of this and they're like, they won't win anything. We will be victorious. Michigan's lawyers they're taking this one on like this is the championship game. They're taking this on like it's Ohio State. And Michigan's going for 5 in a row. We're not going to lose this one. Not with the lawyers that Michigan's bringing to the table. Oh, there is that thought. You're getting in here late. Yeah, we've kicked it around. What's talking about? Ted Ginn Jr. is the second best wide receiver ever behind Hester. Caleb Daniels. It's kind of a weird thing to bring to the table. Ted Ginn might be maybe the best high school track star behind, but I don't. What are you even talking about here? What? I don't know. Okay, I think you're on the wrong show. Obscure Ohio State wide receivers for 200. I mean, Ted Ginn is a return guy, better than Devin Hester. What are we even talking about? Caleb, I'll give you a second to come back and redeem yourself. But like maybe you're onto some video game and sitting there and thought you would, throw something out there to get some response. But this is nonsensical. Nobody has ever said this. Nobody would ever believe it. And it's, again, doesn't work for me. It has made me laugh though. Okay, that's it. Thanks so much for joining the show. I would enjoy you joining up with the Maize and Blue Review. We see you over on the Den. We're talking all day, all night over there about, there's 2 or 3 threads about Michigan fighting the NCAA, Michigan's response. And, there's lawyers that are involved in those threads. And then every other Detroit sport, there's a thread ongoing on there. So, you like the Lions, you like the Pistons, you like the Red Wings, you like the Tigers, hot stove, that's all going on there. It's that's the community. And yeah, as West Quad says here, hit that like button. That's always good. It's good to see you. Thanks so much for watching. We'll be back with you on Friday. Don't forget Saturday, Michigan plays Rutgers at 3:30. We're on after every Michigan basketball game. So we'll see you after that game. And until Friday at 2:00. Everybody have themselves a great day. Thanks for watching. So long.